Hello and welcome. I'm so excited to present to you a brand new TV series called The Creatives, inspired and brought to you by Team E. We're going to go a little bit into the story, talk about why the sitcom format, the storyboard of our title sequence, then talk about our characters and the production. Now, I'd like to introduce you to a group of 5 friends who are all creative professionals in different pursuits, each navigating their passions and the struggles that come along with being a 20-something millennial in this industry. Now, in each episode, we'll go into a little bit more about their struggles and their personalities as characters, and they'll always get into these sticky situations that they're able to help each other get out of. So the setup, we have a central meeting point, which is a coffee shop, kind of like Friends, right? Where this is where they collaborate and they'll catch up on life. And we'll see that in each episode, we'll focus on one character who will be the main protagonist, and we'll see that struggle for that character as we go along. Now, we do believe that this is a show that can be as successful and as popular as Friends. And why is that, you may ask? Because right now we're seeing so much success with shows that are bringing feelings of nostalgia to our audiences. Because even us, as producers of the show, we had to tap into a place of thinking about why we love sitcoms so much. And we realized that it was because we grew up in this era that told stories about our favorite families and friend groups, and sitcoms allowed for us to acknowledge and accept our own failures and even sinfulness through comedy. So, it really humanizes a lot of these struggles and aspects of navigating this industry. We have 5 bright colors to represent the 5 characters. Now, some themes we really wanted to showcase throughout was cultivating deep relationships with the audience, as well as gathering natural emotional reactions, strong identification and representation of struggle through humor, and last but not least, championing collaboration over competition, showing that we don't need to compete with each other, even though it is a competitive industry, that we can support each other. The insights that we wanted to showcase in our episodes was examples of common issues that creators run into. So things like the portfolio, the client, and the block. Now, just one wonderful example of storytelling done in just this title sequence is in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which aired in 1990, and at that time, a lot of title sequences and opening credits weren't particularly creative, so we really loved and were inspired by this example here, and that leads us to our storyboard. In this title sequence is where we'll see our 5 main characters in their different jobs, pursuing and trying to come up with new work and new ideas. However, they're unsuccessful and they start slamming their computers and books and ripping papers shut out of frustration. And then we start to see them try to, overcome this writer's block with their own methods, but it doesn't seem to work either until they call up their friends. And we realize that, they grab drinks, and just even the company of other people and different conversations lead to ideas, and it leads to ideas overflowing and even overflowing the screen until it fades to white, and showing our title, The Creatives. Now, this is the classic pedal structure narratively, because of the way in which we weave this one central concept through these 5 distinctive characters. However, our episode's structure will look a little different.
Even though our opening credits are based on a pedal structure, we decided to create our episodes based on the hero's journey, because it's very typical for sitcoms. It's composited mainly of 3 parts, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And we have 5 sub-parts. It's based on the goal and the problem, the trouble, the model, the failure and the triumph, and the kicker. So in the beginning, our protagonist is represented with this problem or goal that he or she is struggling with. And in the trouble part, we see him or her deciding to actually take action and solve it. In the model, everything gets worse. And in the failure and triumph part, he or she normally fails at the first attempt to solve it. But it gets better, because in the end, the problem will always be solved and everything is back to normal. Our character has changed a little bit, but we must be careful and not change them too much, because this is a sitcom, and in sitcoms, our audience are very, very attached to the characters. So if it's not from season to season, our character must not change too much. And one thing that's important to notice is that our audience must not know that this will be solved in the end. A little bit about our characters. Like all natural friend groups, well, they bring out the best and the worst in each other. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and each character will have their most notorious worst quality about them that would get them into comedic situations every episode. So our first character is Mate. She's a designer, and she is the sitcom archetype of an anchor. That means that she likes to be surrounded by people who are less smart than herself. Secondly, we have Aya. She's the film producer, and she is the archetype that is a dreamer. She dreams and she lets her mind wander. She's very creative. Then we have the musician. He is George. He is drawn to danger, and that is why he's the rebel archetype. Later we have Aurora. She's the other, and she's the eccentric archetype, which means that she's very special and unique as a person. Vania, she's our photographer, and she is very, very kind to everyone and never does anything bad. That means she's the innocent archetype. So a little bit about our production. We have chosen our main city as Madrid in Spain, and it's where everything will be filmed. Especially important places to note down are the apartments of each of the characters, where we will film, and also maybe a bit in their offices at their jobs. Moreover, their main meeting place is called La Bicicleta. It's a coffee place in Madrid, in the center. Here we see it, and we see all the different apartments of each character and how they represent their personality. So for example, George, he is into music, so he has guitars as decorations, and Aurora is into books because she's a writer, so on.
This will follow the standard guidelines of shooting an actual sitcom, including a multicam setup, a live studio audience, and especially nowadays, things are on streaming platforms such as Netflix, so that is where we'll be launching this. We're going to keep that large-scale lighting system. Because we have a multicam setup, we want to make sure that lighting is consistent across all angles, and this is really done across newscasts and just being able to switch the cameras between a switchboard. So now that we have all that presented to you, we would like to thank you so much for tuning in, and we cannot wait to present the creatives to you and the pilot series and our opening credits as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, so the creative process for this project, I'd say in one word, was a roller coaster. We started off with a lot of different ideas, then we all chose one that we got super excited with, but then we had to sadly let go because it was just going nowhere. And then in the end, it was just a lot of us like thinking, brainstorming, couldn't land a theme, and then we realized, okay, wait, well, let's see what we're doing right now. This whole challenge is the creative process. So then we were thinking a little bit about it, and we thought that it kind of resonated with the 90s sitcom idea where they kind of position a challenge and then it's to see how they overcome it. And no matter how simple the challenge might seem, it's still very interesting to see how they go through it. So I think it was a nice combination of kind of what we're learning in our masters, what we experience maybe like several times a day with this project.
I believe that brainstorming for this task was one of the most creatively challenging things that we did all semester, and we thought about a lot of ideas, we made stories and made synopses and other things for a bunch of them, and ended up doing actually a story about us trying to create a story, which was ironic in the end.
In the end, after having like hundreds of different ideas about having to do this, we were thinking like, we're actually struggling to come up with like a solution for this, and that's why we thought, why not make actual a sitcom or a program about it, and how actually they can overcome their writer's block.
So our final product is a reflection of our actual process, and we were able to make something creative out of it. so we decided to go with that.
At first, we had a totally different idea, which was very challenging for us to really showcase the valuable aspects of storytelling. So then we sat down again and we focused more on less is more, which basically having a simple idea yet very powerful. And this is how we made it to doing this project, which is The Creatives.